Offense, his second career leadoff home run. Both have come against the Twins, and the Yankees are already on top 1-0 later in the inning. Gleyber Torres at the dish, 2 runners on. Fly through with at least 6 extra base hits and 2 walks over a 2-game span. Now, let's stay in the 7th here. Clarke Schmidt dealing. As we see, one more time, that ball staying in the yard, but still doing the damage. Schmidt doing the damage with the arm, recording 16 swing and misses today, his most in any start of his career. The Yankees will go on to win 5-0, get the broomsticks out. They're the best team in the American League. First team in that league to 30 wins. The first team to 30 wins in the National League, the Phillies, the best team in baseball. Wrapping up a 2-2. Home and away split here with the Mets scoreless. Oh, the powder baby blues are beautiful, but it is Pete Alonso taking former Met Taijuan Walker deep. Alonso's 10th of the season, and the Mets take an early 1-0 lead. Crossing the top of the hour here on SportsCenter, Kevin Negandhi here with you. We've got 60 more minutes for you. Full reaction to the NFL's full schedule release, and our Super Bowl champ will join us to talk about Jared Goff and the Lions' potential leap this season. Plus, who poses a bigger threat to the Celtics, the Pacers or the Knicks? Our NBA champ has the answer, but we begin tonight with the defending champs. The Nuggets heading back to Minnesota for Game 6 tonight as they're just one win away from another trip to the conference finals. After losing the first 2 at home, Denver's been on a tear. They could become the 6th team in NBA history to win a best-of-7 after losing the opening 2 games at home. They'd also be the 6th defending champ to overcome a 2-0 deficit in any series. Timberwolves will need a bounce-back game from Anthony Edwards to keep their season alive. Edwards had 18 points on just 5 of 15 shooting in Game 5. Double-teamed on 34 plays on Tuesday after being doubled just 20 times combined in the first 4 games. Minnesota will also need to decide on a game plan for defending Nikola Jokic. How about this? The Nuggets shot 5 of 18 from the field with 5 turnovers last game when Karl-Anthony Towns was the final defender on Jokic, allowing Rudy Gobert to roam the court. When Gobert was the final defender, the Nuggets shot 13 of 17 on those plays, including 8 of 9 from Jokic. We're talking about the defending Defensive Player of the Year. We've got reporters in Minneapolis covering both sides of this game. Ohm Youngmisuk is with the Nuggets. Dave McMenamin is with the Timberwolves. Let's go on the scene. Let's start with Ohm.
Mina Kimes, Marcel Louis-Jacques, Frank Isola, and yes, Tim Kalishaw. Tim, let me say this. You have our respect for not calling out today. After Stars collapse up 3-0, after the Mavs get run off the floor, will it spur Tim to competitive victory today?
Probably.
Let's go around the horn.
The hockey and basketball teams in New York and Boston are doing okay. Undefeated.
Thunder 117, Mavericks 95. Luka Doncic's woes continue. OKC's roll continues. Thunder 5-0 this postseason. They haven't had a sweat at all. Maybe last night, a moment where Kyrie pulled the game within 1. Then it was double digits within minutes, and then it was 22 not so much later. So I ask you, was last night about OKC's continued dominance or Luka's continued slump? Around the horn to Dallas to Tim Kalishaw.
Tony, these shows you have where people like to overreact to these game ones.
People, yeah.
I mean, let's be realistic for a second. The last time the Mavs 2 years ago went to the conference final, they lost the first 2 games in Phoenix. I was there. You guys weren't. I know how these things work. Nothing to worry about. Now, the last series, the Mavs lost 2 games to the Clippers. They looked terrible in those games. They had 30 at halftime in Game 1. They were down by 30 in the other one.
This is not helping your argument.
They have a way of looking really bad, and then Luka bounces back the next game and scores 40 points. Now, here's the problem with that is that Lou Dort and Chet Holmgren are way better defenders than anybody on the Clippers. My man, Kason Wallace, Richardson, Texas, go Golden Eagles. He comes off the bench and guards Kyrie. They got great defense. The Mavs do have a hurdle to overcome, but I hardly think that Luka and Kyrie are going to go quietly.
Okay, but talk to me specifically about Luka and the shooting and this postseason. And
yeah, I mean, he hurt his knee in Game 2 against the Clippers. In the last 4 games, he's 5 for 35 on 3-pointers. They're not going to live. They're not going to survive with that.
Yeah, this is not helping your argument that everything's all right with Dallas. Let's go to Mina Kimes here on what you saw from OKC's rout of Dallas last night.
Yeah, now that our Dallas delegation is done, I will redirect to the winning team.
Yes, thank you very much.
And I want to go back not just to last night, but to before the playoffs when, as I'm sure you all remember, there was, shall we say, discourse over whether the Lakers should deliberately lose so they could face the Thunder instead of the Nuggets. Boy, that has not aged well. And I think why it hasn't aged well and what's so important from last night is we talk about youth in the playoffs and the NBA as being such a detriment. Oh, they don't have the experience, right? But the flip side of that is they have energy and effort and bodies that they can just throw at you on defense, and that is why they won. 25 second chance points, Tony, the most they've had all year long. They killed them on the boards, and especially given Luka obviously being hampered, he looks sluggish, the step back's not there. It appears that the Mavericks simply do not have the depth to contend with this version of Luka.
Frank, let me ask you that specifically. Do the Mavericks have the depth to contend against OKC in this series?
Yeah, I think it really hurts losing Maxi Kleber in the last round like they did to the shoulder injury. Remember also about Oklahoma City. This team had 8 days off, and you're thinking, oh, they'll be rusty and experienced. Look at the way they played. They're now 5-0 in the playoffs. They've yet to give up 100 points. And the biggest issue that Dallas is going to have, Tim's right, they've come back before, but clearly Luka is hurting, and in a very kind of like Joel Embiid way where you're dealing with a knee injury, then the fourth quarter rolls around, fitness seems to come into play as well. You can tell Luka on the court, Lou Dort diving for that loose ball. Luka didn't like that. Then after the game, he's real sensitive about the way that he's playing. I think they're in a lot of trouble here because Luka clearly isn't himself.
And Marcel Louis-Jacques, take away from Thunder win Game 1.
Yeah, I think that Luka's trademark move, right, that step back, the step back three, if there's any other indication, I don't know if there's any better indication that he's not right than him shooting 2 for 12 on step backs last night against Oklahoma City. He is very clearly not healthy. Past 4 games, 14% from three-point line. It is the worst 4-game stretch in NBA history. I don't think he is right. I don't know if he's necessarily getting better. And then on the flip side, I mean, we obviously talk about Minnesota's defense, and deservedly so. Oklahoma City, like Frank said, they haven't allowed it more than 100 points all playoffs. They held Dallas to 5 for 15 shooting when Chet Holmgren was guarding them, 3 blocks. Dallas's bigs got into foul trouble. It just was a complete mess for Dallas last night. I don't know that they're able to come back this series. This looks like the Thunder series.
I don't know if Kalish's able to come back with -8 points, but we'll give him a chance after the horn.
I just want to remind people I was born in Tulsa. I'm not oblivious to the Thunder's greatness and some of the things they have going for them. I'm just saying, watch out for P.J. Washington and Derek Lively in Game 2. That's all I'm saying.
Born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. 40 years, 50 years before the team came into existence. But yeah, you were there first. We'll move on. Jamal Murray. Avoiding suspension from the NBA. That's what I want to talk about next. Game is not until Friday for Game 3. But no suspension for Murray. The league has determined they fine $100,000 for the throwing of the towel and the heating pad. Did the NBA get this right? Around the horn, Mina Kimes.
No, I think they got it wrong for a couple of reasons. As you mentioned, there's multiple infractions. The throwing of the towel, the throwing of the heating pad, the money gesture, all sort of vaguely directed in the direction of the refs. But it's not just about the refs. Throwing that heating pad on the floor, that was reckless. Somebody could have tripped on that and seriously hurt themselves. And you can't help but look at the lack of a suspension and think about precedent that this sets. How can they suspend another player for doing the same thing in the future? It seems very obvious to me they didn't want to pull a star out of the playoffs, given some of the history of that, Draymond, of course. And I think it could come back to bite the NBA in the end.
Frank, address that. Did the NBA pull it a little bit so they wouldn't lose Murray for a playoff game?
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen if he doesn't play, there's a really good chance they're going to lose without him. Jamal Murray knew exactly what he was doing. Of course, he should be suspended. Remember, Chris Finch, the head coach of Minnesota, was injured in a freak accident in the last game against Phoenix when his own player, Mike Conley, ran into him. So freak accidents happen during NBA games. I'll tell you what, if I'm the referees union, I would say something here, because there was a moment about a month ago where Kelly Oubre walked up to the 3 officials after a game and in their face called them right to their face a derogatory word, didn't get suspended. Now you have a player throwing stuff on the court, making the money sign. I think the league dropped the ball on this one. He should have been suspended.
Marcel, how do you see it? Do you see it as the league dropping the ball, or that the league's making a decision here, for better or worse, that the game should be decided by players on the floor, and we're not going to make a decision that is oversized in some way?
Yeah, I get what they're trying to do, keeping Jamal Murray in the series. For the record, they could very well lose the series even with him playing. But when we're talking about precedent, Rudy Gobert was fined $100,000 for doing the money sign back in March. So Jamal Murray gets the same fine for doing the money sign and possibly endangering the field of play. Like I think they probably took it a little light on him. I get why they don't suspend him, but this is for sure a light punishment for the crime that he committed. And again, like throwing the heating pad on the court, like that is, if somebody tripped and hurt themselves, somebody rolled an ankle, broke a leg, tore an ACL while doing that, like then what? Man, yeah, it's a terrible act. It was immature for Jamal Murray. He probably deserved more.
As much as I hate suspending players, I agree with the panelists. This feels like it would have been very different if this was a bench player and in a series that was 1-1, where that suspension didn't really mean, quite as much. Frank is old enough to remember Bert Campaneris throwing a bat at a Tigers pitcher in the playoffs. Major League Baseball suspended him for the start of the next season. I think it was the first 5 games, not the World Series. I would be for that. Fine him, suspend him the first 3 or 5 games of next season. How about that? How about that?
It doesn't really do it for me.
Something. That's something.
What hurt was what happened on the
solution.
floor. The meltdown was in this series. It should happen in this series if you're going to do it. That gets you thrown at a Green Grove, the nursing home, if you throw heating pads.
Yeah.
Doesn't get you thrown at an NBA game. Unbelievable. All right, let's talk tonight. Pacers-Knicks game 2. Mitchell Robinson ankle re-injured, so he's out for the rest of the playoffs. New York's short roster gets even shorter. You know that already, Frank. You're the minutes police. But adjustments tonight, and I'm asking for the Knicks, I'm asking for the Pacers, and I'm asking for the officials after the 2-minute report was a CVS receipt. Go ahead.
Well, here's what's going to happen. Spoiler alert. The last 2-minute report will point out a couple of calls that were missed in the game because that happens all the time. The big thing for the Indiana Pacers, which kind of got glossed over here, was that Tyrese Halliburton was 2 for 6. And Rick Carlisle said, well, I have to do a better job of getting him shots. No, Tyrese Halliburton is an all-star. He's on the Olympic team. He needs to do better. If you watch that game, I felt like he wanted no part of that fourth quarter, especially offensively. He got completely outclassed by Jalen Brunson. He needs to do more. It's not on Rick Carlisle. It's not on the referees. It's on your all-star.
Halliburton has said as much. But are you going to tell me the officiating at the end of the last game doesn't cast a shadow on this game when we're considering how they're going to referee this game?
Well, first of all, every game seems to be an issue. And you know what? We're in the playoffs. Why not in the last 2 minutes just review everything? Why can you review a foul but not something like a kick ball, which would have given Indiana the ball in a tie game? Instead, the Knicks keep possession. DiVincenzo hits the 3. Just review
Frank
everything.
says review everything from a man who's not on deadline, it sounds like. Marcel Louis-Jacques, how about you?
I don't think it changes how the game's officiated tonight because there have been problems with how these games have been officiated throughout the entire postseason, even specifically with the Knicks. I don't know if any team has benefited more from late game, let's say, controversy than the New York Knicks, although they did outscore Indiana pretty heavily in that fourth quarter. They do deserve some credit for being able to close out games. I don't think, while I don't think the refereeing change, the officiating changes, I don't think the result changes either. I've got New York Knicks winning tonight. They're too good. Jalen Brunson's too hot right now. And then Josh Hart putting up LeBron numbers, not scoring, but in minutes played.
Kalisha, adjustments for tonight.
In the last minute of that game, the Pacers got called for a foul that wasn't a foul. They had to overturn it with a challenge. As Frank said, they got called for a kickball. That wasn't a kickball. Should have been a turnover, possibly a fast break. And I know Miles Turner was barely moving with 12 seconds to go. I want to see the 48-minute report on the number of screens where a guy is barely
Exactly,
moving,
that's true.
and they
Thank you
miss
very
those
much.
calls throughout the game. That you can't make that call with 12 seconds to go. You shouldn't really make it.
So is there a
at any
shadow
point.
cast for tonight? Are both teams going at each other the same way? An adjustment, Mina Kimes. How do you see tonight playing out?
I do think that the consistency is the issue here, especially when you're watching the Wolves like literally act like a band of actual Wolves and get away with it on the floor, and then you watch this Knicks series with a soft whistle. I suspect they make some adjustments going forward because of that.
One thing you're sure of tonight, Mina. Who you got?
I got the Knicks.
Tim Kalishaw?
I had the Pacers in game one. They should have won game one. I'll take the Pacers. in
Marcel?
game two.
I got the Knicks. New York goes up 2-0.
And Frank Isola.
Brunson and Thibodeau, 2-0.
At the Garden last night, Vici, the Rangers in double overtime over Carolina in an instant classic, and Vincent Trocheck, the winner. And he's been a conqueror all postseason long. He's scored in 5 straight games, and you know the Rangers haven't lost a game this postseason, so that's working well for him. The Dallas Stars. Oh, Tim Kalishaw, here we go again on our own, going down the only road you've ever known, blowing a 3-0 home lead. An Avalanche to lose 4-3 in overtime. Colorado takes a road win game 1. What you buying, what you selling from the overtime thrillers? Tim Kalishaw.
This is the only one who was there last night, Tony. I should inform you that since Pete DeBoer got to Dallas, Stars are 0-5 in game one.
That is
They
not
don't
a good
really
thing.
get going until game two.
Part of the plan.
In fact,
Not part of
against
your
Vegas,
argument.
they lost game 2, and they still won that series. So let's not get overheated about that. Now, having said that, Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, they're the most dangerous players on the planet together. The Avalanche have scored at least 4 goals in every playoff game and in every time they played the Stars all 5 times this year, winning 4 of those games. It is a bit of a problem. It's nothing to panic about.
Nothing to panic about, he says. This is
Nothing
an
to
interesting strategy you're making for Dallas teams today. Marcel Louis-Jacques, how about you?
Tony, what we heard out of the Stars locker room last night was they let this lead slip away. You didn't let it slip away. You blew it. It's a 3-0 lead after the first period. That's a blown lead. The Avalanche are the best offense in the NHL right now. 32 postseason goals is the best start to a postseason in NHL history. You had to assume that this onslaught, this attack, this rebuttal was coming at some point, and they just seemed so woefully prepared to defend that lead. It's a shame Stars blew that last night.
Isola?
I know there's an anti-New York bias on this panel, but Igor Shesterkin, the Rangers goaltender, 54 saves. That's the most,
Yeah, you're not
third
wrong.
most in a playoff game in Rangers history. But here's the key. The Rangers, 2 for 7 on the power play. They killed off 2 penalties in overtime. That's because the Hurricanes, 0 for 10 on the power play in this series. Ain't winning if you do that.
Tremendous argument for my solo. But also that qualifies as a homer pick. And Mina Kimes, how about you?
Just that.
Yeah, now that Frank is bravely talking about New York sports when no one else will, I'll go back to the other series. And I just want to say, if you follow Tim's logic, it's actually a good thing that he has the least amount of points on this panel, because he is going to come back just like all of his Dallas teams. Unfortunately, I do not think that is in the cards for the Stars because of what Marcel alluded to. The Avalanche's offense is too great. And this was actually the 5th time this season, Tony, they have come back from being down 3-0 and shut their opponent down. That is the most in NHL history.
Is that right? Wow. Did you get that stat from Woody Page? I don't think you got that stat from Woody Page. All right, we'll move on. Buy or sell to. It's the debate of the week. I love this story. Roll tape.
We got to get you outside of that football lane, man. Where the guaranteed contracts are, where the best athletes in the world are. That's us. I can take 30 players right now in the NBA and throw them in the NFL. You cannot take 30 NFL players and put them in the NBA.
Whoa.
There it is. Austin Rivers making it on the show for that take. Mina, who you got? NBA players in the NFL or NFL players in the NBA? You can see J.J. Watt rallied for NFL players. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think where Austin went wrong was saying that they're the most athletic. That's just not true. You could have said skillful. There's a case to be made rather that because there's just so many more roster spots in football and positions you specialize in, you could see,
this
I
isn't
don't know,
about
an
roster
NBA
spots.
player.
Talk to me about making the jump. Could an NBA player more easily make the jump to the NFL or vice versa?
maybe an NBA player could be a tight end who posts up in the end zone and catches a couple touchdowns, but there is too much skill involved in every other position. And to make a change later in your career, both directions seems very
I hear you. But you're taking NFL. Tim Kalishaw, how about you?
You know, there are a lot of great players, great athletes in a lot of these sports. Had they chosen differently in high school, yes, they could have pursued
yes,
that.
we know this.
But Austin Rivers, that's not what Austin Rivers is saying.
Exactly.
He's saying they could go from the NBA and go suit up and go play football. I think they'd go through 2 football practices and they'd say, I'm out of here. I'm going back to the land of, nights off and guaranteed contracts. I want no part of this.
Marcel, who you got, NBA or NFL?
Yeah, I knew a lot of guys in high school who quit football to go play basketball because it was too physical. Give me the NFL players, man. The size and speed and coordination that they have. I think it's a no-brainer. And there's definitely not 30 guys in the NBA who can go play in the NFL right now. That's absurd. I know he's putting on a front for the McAfee show, but that is just such a bold-faced lie that I cannot get over.
Come on. All right, I could see Paulo Banchero, LeBron James as a tight end. I could see Jason Tatum as the new Harold Carmichael possibly doing that. And Mina, we love football and their skill, but come on now. Hockey, tennis, golf, soccer takes a little bit more skill than being a defensive back that could run and tackle. It's a good thing you're not playing hockey or soccer. Or tennis.
You lost me there. Okay, yeah, right. Nobody's saying they're going to hit 200 in Major League Baseball or they're going to be able to skate and play a line in hockey. All right, I don't know if we got to the bottom of that conversation yet, but it seems like everybody's leaning
Austin
more
Rivers
NFL.
was right.
I want to see NFL versus sumo. Did you see that this week, Micah Parsons? Did you see it, Timmy?
There he goes. There he goes.
Not bad. Oh, sumo won the first one.
Looks
They
like
win a
he's playing
second
the
time, and
49ers.
Micah defended himself a little bit better. I take an entire
49ers
offensive
again.
line of sumo wrestlers right now. We'll make the playoffs in the NFL next year. All right, Kalishaw's done. That's Dolan's done. Or I'll take a sumo wrestler, put him in the net,
Recount.
and I'd win the Stanley Cup Finals right now and take up the whole net.
Love that.
That's our showdown, Kyle.
Right in.
Louis Jacques. Marcel, good luck in showdown. Catcher's interference in baseball has been going up the last couple years, is up again on pace this year. And last night we had a brutal one. JD Martinez swing on impact with Wilson Contreras' arm. It's a broken arm for Contreras. He was in pain. It's a terrible injury. Question was Martinez too far back or Contreras too far up? The St. Louis Cardinals have addressed this. They said they have moved Contreras up in the box to help him frame low strikes. They acknowledged it was a risk, and now we see the very downside of that. Mina, how do you rule here?
Yeah, I don't want to blame Contreras, but as you said, they basically acknowledged that they were taking a risk with a deliberate strategy to better frame pitches. And it's not just about him. It's something we are seeing across baseball. There are as many catching interference calls in the month of April as there were across an entire season 10 years ago. Something is going on.
Marcel?
Contreras did not blame Martinez for the incident after the game, so neither will I. It is a freak accident and an unfortunate byproduct of moving your catcher up in the box, which is something I'm sure the Cardinals aren't going to do in the game.
Right. I mean, then the blame should be on the Cardinals, right? This wasn't the backswing. This was the swing. We'll move on. Also from baseball last night.
Don't take this the wrong way, but we are already a no-hitter alert. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, before he throws a single pitch tonight against the Marlins.
MLB Network's Greg Amsinger. This is, yes, before the game. As he sets up the game, they threw a no-hitter alert. And you know what happened on the first pitch of the game. Oh, my goodness. You've heard of broadcaster jinx before, Marcel. How should Amsinger play this one off?
I mean, look, the world is going to get its jokes off, so maybe stay off Twitter for a couple of days. But, I mean, if you're going to make that joke about any team, how about the worst one in baseball? No harm, no foul.
Oh, that's a low blow on your hometown team. Go ahead, Mina.
I mean, the worst part for him, it wasn't just one hit. He actually allowed 5 hits in that game. I understand what he was doing, maybe getting out ahead of it. It's worse when they bring up a no-hitter late in the game, but it was obviously a mistake.
Greg, I feel for you, man. Lead into it. Love it. That was an all-time jinx. Mina Kimes, 30 seconds to FaceTime.
Yeah, just wanted to extend my condolences to the friends, family, many people who worked with legendary rock producer and engineer Steve Albini, who was behind albums from Nirvana, Pixies, The Breeders, but so many that meant so much to me. McCluskey, Low, Cloud Nothings, I could go on. Joanna Newsom, I really, really adored his music growing up. It had a huge influence on me. So RIP to an absolute legend.
That was a very nice remembrance, Mina. Thank you for your time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.